is Jenna and today I'm doing my February wrap up and my March TBR for 2018. I managed to read 6 books in February, one of which was an audiobook that I've been listening to for like the past 6 months or something ridiculous, so I finally finished that. The others I read, one of the books was for the YA circle and then the rest were just kind of for fun. I am still working on my university reads. They're just, oh man, they're just the worst, but I'm working on them, which is the main thing. I don't know how many books I have on my March TBR, obviously, because I do the weird not really picking a TBR thing. So that's a lot of fun and we're just going to jump straight into the books that I read in February. So the first book that I read, I don't actually have a physical copy of because I read an ARC copy, which was lent out to me by Tori from the YA Circle. So thank you very much, Tori, for giving me the opportunity to read this book. That is The Invasion by Peter O'Goolan, and I gave this one a 5 out of 5 stars. This book is the sequel to The Call, which came out approximately 2 years ago now, and I've been highly anticipating the sequel. And let me tell you, it was amazing, okay? It was mind-blowing and I really didn't know going into it what I was going to sort of come across in the novel, and it blew me away by everything that happened. So I actually read this one in a day. I read it to and from Sydney when I was going up there for the Greyvale launch, and honestly it was just such a good book. The characters really built and grew from the first one, especially since a lot of the characters were kind of torn apart from each other in this book, and it was all about them trying to get back to each other, and it was just this really whirlwind of an experience. Obviously everything had changed after the events of the first novel, so to come into the second novel and to see how it all kind of wrapped up, because this was a duology, so this was actually the final book in this series, which is insane and crazy because I've been waiting for it for so long, but honestly it wraps it up so well and I am just blown away by it. This book is definitely even more horrific and twisted than the first one, so there's so much of like horrifying imagery in this book. You know, you could be reading it and all of a sudden go, that's horrifying and disgusting, and it just made my stomach twist and sort of squirm in just the most uncomfortable way with some of the imagery that I was getting to read about. But honestly, it was a fantastic book and I'm really glad that I read it, and if I didn't say it, even though I'm positive that I did, I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. The second book that I read this month was actually a book that was sent to me by Pantera Press, so thank you Pantera for sending me this book. It also kind of matched up with my TBR jar challenge, which was very exciting. So that was to read a book about an LGBTQ+ protagonist, and this book definitely fits that bill, and that is If I Tell You by Alicia Tuckerman, which I gave 5 out of 5 stars to. This book was traumatic to read. Like, it was incredible and I loved it, but it was kind of traumatic because I was in tears by the end of it, and by tears I mean I was sobbing heavily by the end of this book. So If I Tell You follows a girl named Alex who is gay, but she hasn't told anybody because she lives in a small rural town where small town mentality basically is very at large there, and she's afraid that she will not be accepted by her friends, family and her other peers, so she keeps it hidden until a girl called Phoenix moves to town and she is openly gay. Alex falls for her, and what follows is just this whirlwind of a love adventure where Alex really learns to come to terms with who she is and learns to be comfortable in her own skin, and oh my goodness, it is so good. The plot takes you in one direction and then all of a sudden will twist and take you in another. The characters are just so incredibly complex, every single one of them. We have a couple of really good mentor characters which I think are incredibly important in a novel like this, but also if you cast the seriousness aside for a second, this book is so Australian it's not funny. Like, there's so many Australian euphemisms in it, and I loved it because it really felt like I felt like I could walk within the pages of this book, and I think that's something really special. I've actually done a full book review of this one, which I will leave a link in the description box below. I believe it's going to be out before this video goes up, but I'm not 100% sure. So either way, I'm going to leave a link to it in the description box below once it's out, so I definitely recommend that you go and check that one out and 100% pick up this book because it is incredible. The next 2 books that I read this month, I read as part of the Shadowhunter Chronicles reread that I am doing, and that is City of Ashes and City of Glass, both by Cassandra Clare. I gave City of Ashes 4 stars and City of Glass 5 stars. I've not read these books in like the longest time. Oh man, I am reminded by how much I love them. So there's just so much in these books now because I'm just so used to watching the TV show. So I thought to myself, you know, oh, I've probably forgotten a lot of the plot, and I'd forgotten a lot of it. But reading the books, it's been really awesome to see that even though the show doesn't follow the plots completely, they do use a lot of the plots. They just twist them and make them their own, which I think is really cool. Alec is 100% still my favorite character, and all the sort of sly references to his and Magnus's relationship, even though it's not like outwardly expressed in this book. Oh man, every time I found one, it just like made my heart flutter. It was just so good. One thing I will say about this book in particular is I am in love with Luke in the book series. I think he is just so much more paternal. He cares about Clary and Simon, and he just kind of takes everybody in under his wing, and I am in love with parental Luke. He is my actual fave. City of Glass, of course, introduces my favorite character of the series, Sebastian, whom I know that I shouldn't love, but I do anyway, and let's just move on from that point. But honestly, City of Glass, it had so much of a story element to it that I really just wasn't expecting, because I wasn't used to it. The characters really grew and sort of came into their own. The plot, while it was still kind of simplified, I've said that about all these books, I found the plots now to be really quite overly simplified. I don't know, again, if it's because I've read so much since these books first came out, but it did really well with that fact that it was kind of an oversimplified plot, but it still had enough that it would kind of throw you for a loop every now and then. But the characters themselves were just so lively and incredible that it just made for such an enjoyable read, and I'm so glad that I've been rereading this series because I absolutely adore it. I then finished the Harry Potter and the Order of the Phoenix audiobook, which I gave 5 out of 5 stars to. This one has taken me literally like 6 months to finish, because I go through phases where I will like listen to an audiobook non-stop and then I won't listen to it at all. But I finally finished it this month. Also, it didn't help that the audiobook almost went for like 30 hours. So when you see something like that, you just hear a little bit like, oh my goodness, that's so insane. But again, these audiobooks are incredible. Stephen Fry does just the most incredible job as voicing all of these characters and making the story really come to life. So I'm really glad that I finally got a chance to finish it, and I can't wait to start Half-Blood Prince. And then the last book that I read this month was actually the YA Circle Book Club's Book of the Month. This one was a reread for me, and that was Simon vs. the Homo Sapiens of Jenna by Becky Albertelli, which I gave 5 out of 5 stars to. Oh, this book, guys, is absolutely amazing and incredible, and I love it to pieces. Like, you have no idea how much I love this book. The best part about it is I actually went to the Penguin Teen Showcase in Adelaide. Thank you very much, Penguin Teen, for bringing your showcase here, because we got to see an exclusive screening of Love, Simon, which was amazing and incredible and so true, so faithful to the book, and I just loved every second of it. Love this book. It still is one of my favorite contemporaries of all time. It's just such the cutest little love story. Simon is just the most adorable little guy, and I love everything about this book. And if I didn't say it, I kept this one at 5 out of 5 stars, which was my original rating. I've actually done a full book review of this one, which I have called Love, Simon, because the title of this is just too long for a YouTube title. So I will leave that in the description box below, so definitely go and check that out if you want to hear more of my full thoughts on the book. So there we go, those are the 6 books that I read in February. Now I'm going to move on to what I'm going to be reading in March. Again, I'm going to be telling you my YA Circle Book Club Book of the Month, my Shadowhunter Chronicles Reads, and my TBR Jar Challenge. So first up, the YA Circle Book of the Month for March, I don't actually have a physical copy of yet, but that is The Bells by Donielle Clayton. I know literally nothing about this book at all. I couldn't give you a blurb even if I tried, because I know nothing about it, but it is our YA Circle Book of the Month, so I will definitely be reading it, and I think I'm looking forward to it. Next up, we have our Shadowhunter Chronicles Reads, and this month I'm going to try to not exactly get back on track with it, but more just kind of catch up a little bit. So this month I have decided that I want to read the entirety of the Infernal Devices series. That includes Clockwork Angel, Clockwork Prince, and Clockwork Princess. The thing about these books is I don't particularly like them, if that makes sense. So I've only read Clockwork Angel, and I wasn't the biggest fan. I thought it was basically a carbon copy of the Mortal Instruments series, and because I'm so heavily invested in that and love it so much, I just found it really difficult to get into this one. I know absolutely nothing about Clockwork Prince because I never got close to it, but I know how Clockwork Princess ends. So I know the fates of a lot of the characters because I read City of Heavenly Fire, which obviously spoils a lot of this book. So I feel less motivated to read it, but I am really looking forward to it, because until I finish these books, I cannot read the rest of the Mortal Instruments series. Until I do that, I can't read the Dark Artificer series, which everyone says is amazing and the best. So definitely looking forward to that. And now time for the TBR Jar Challenge. Alrighty, so challenge for this month is, drum roll, read a book that's been on your shelf since primary school. Ooh. So I just had to do a really big look around. I ended up having to go into my box of childhood books, but a lot of those books I actually have never read. So I found one that I'm really interested in, and I'm gonna read it for this challenge. And that is 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea by Jules Verne. I have no idea where I got this book from. I'm assuming it was my mum's or my dad's book when they were kids, but there's no name in it. Like, they normally put a name in it, but it's not there. So yeah, I'm gonna read 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea. So there we have it. Those are the 6 books that I read in February and the books that I'm planning on reading in March. As you know, I will obviously be reading more books than that. Well, fingers crossed I'll be reading more books than that. I already know there's at least 1 to 2 uni books that I'm going to have to read, and I'm currently reading another book at the moment that doesn't relate to any of this, so definitely stay tuned for my March wrap up because there's going to be some pretty exciting books on there. If you like this video, be sure to give it a huge thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe to my channel so you don't miss a thing. Stay random. Bye.